early 2000s, I stumbled upon graduation from Simon Fraser University. I was getting into marketing, worked for a couple of different companies before being offered a position to work for the Burnaby Board of Trade. And at that time, I simply applied for a events and marketing manager. And really, it was just because I had a passion for marketing, I had a passion for organizing events. And so when that opportunity came up, I thought, yeah, it'd be great to kind of, do things on a larger scale, whether it be like things from golf tournaments to awards galas and all that kind of stuff. So I really had a really interesting 3 years doing that. But during that process was kind of where I caught the entrepreneurial bug, so to speak. Because this was a membership-based organization, the membership itself comprised of really just a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, large corporations, but the CEOs. So basically people that were really kind of business-minded, business-focused, entrepreneurial spirit through and through. I don't know if kids nowadays use Rolodexes, but my Rolodex, which is maybe like this now. Sure. Oh yeah, it's called a phone book on a phone. But just the amount of business cards I collected and contacts, and LinkedIn was just kind of getting started, so I was just kind of seeing my contacts grow, and that's where I kind of got inspired. I'm like, hey, you know what? In this membership-based organization, who's part of it? It was business owners of all shapes and sizes and colors, but it almost seems like a job, a business that when I get introduced to them, they're telling me, hey, I do this for a living. And I'm like, wow, you can make a business out of that? What else can you do? And what else can people do to turn into a business? So that kind of what got the wheels in motion for me. So I kind of evolved my role to working more from a marketing consulting standpoint. And at one point, maybe the Burnaby Board Trade may not be too happy with that. Start doing some consulting on the side for some of these existing members. There's no conflict of interest, but ultimately I felt that at some point my time was up with the Burnaby Board Trade, and I thought that I can do this full time. And so from a marketing consulting standpoint, I spent about 2 years doing that, working with nonprofit organizations, small scale businesses, helping them with everything from social to event management to just basically, marketing, basic print marketing too. So those are some of the things that I was doing. And then a real inflection point was when I actually became a dad for the first time. And at that time, Skype was all the rage. So I was, dealing with clients while working from home. I was talking about, I would have, my daughter in one hand. I was like Skyping with the client on the other hand, and my baby would be crying. And I'm like thinking, oh my God, this is.
And this was a long time before COVID and like remote working was even a thing, right?
Totally. And so when that sort of inflection point happened, some people had the aha moment. I had my oh shit moment. I was like, okay, I can't be doing this. I needed a place to work. I couldn't work from home. So that kind of what dawned on me to consider, where else could I work? I tried the library. I tried even down the street from my house. There was a 24-hour McDonald's with really crappy Wi-Fi was where I was doing my work at around 3 a.m. after a feeding for my daughter. Then I heard about this whole co-working concept and heard about it in passing. I actually knew somebody that ran a co-working space in Vancouver. And perhaps for those who don't know what co-working is, it's basically a shared workspace. The biggest one being WeWork, which is a very globally large shared workspace that provides desk rental, office rental, and a very flexible scheduling for mainly entrepreneurs and remote workers. So I was invited to a co-working space when I told my friend about it. I'm like, hey, here's my challenges at home. And he said, yeah, come on out to downtown and, spend a week with me. And at that point, my life kind of just changed for that. I fell in love with that concept. I brought my laptop and my headphones and I sat down. I'm thinking, this place is amazing. But that commute, because I'm living in Coquitlam, it just didn't work out. The commute just didn't make any sense. So for myself, I thought, hey, is there anything out here where I live? And lo and behold, nothing existed, of course. And then that dawned on me to try to consider opening a space of my own. Mainly, it came from a real sort of a selfish standpoint. Like, I can't afford an office right now, but what if I took on a space and let everyone else pay my rent? And that's where Beta Collective started. So I opened Beta Collective as Surrey's first co-working space, and we've been in existence since 2014. And that's been sort of the start of my journey.
Fantastic. And I heard so many different pieces in there, Jason, around it didn't really sound like you started out thinking you would ever be an entrepreneur or that you would start your own business, but then life circumstances kind of happened, right? And as you said, you started out at the Board of Trade and you sort of had this experience where you got to sort of identify all these contacts and networks and whatnot, and then you were able to sort of branch out and do a bit on your own. You had a big life change in terms of your first daughter being born, right? And that then necessitated a change in lifestyle and realization. But, I think what's also the most interesting is when you said that you identified a need. It's a bit of a selfish need, right? There was already an existing co-working space out there. But you identified in your local community there wasn't anything available, right? So just so many really interesting points there sort of along the way. Now, I also know that you didn't just stop there. So you didn't just stop with a co-working space, because you could have, right? What else did you go on to do?
So it kind of lent itself to opening so I ended up opening about 4 years later a commissary kitchen, which I named YVR Prep. Commissary kitchen, in a nutshell, really is no different from a co-working space. We provide, instead of renting shared office space, we're renting out shared kitchen space. So we built out my partners and I built out a facility in Burnaby, and to date we have roughly about 60 small-scale food producers that call our space home. If you can imagine a giant workout facility like with Fitness World, and basically members pay a membership to work out in that facility using all their equipment. That's pretty much that equivalent, where you're prior to us as a commissary in existence, your only real other option was to open your own bakery or open your own restaurant. And if COVID notwithstanding, that's probably one of the most monumental, risky, capital intensive, lose your shirt type of pursuit for a business. So having that sort of middle ground where we take on all the risk in terms of equipment, capital output, storage facility and capacity, and you just can rent, pay a membership, and you just focus on crafting your grandma's hot sauce or cupcake recipe, and hopefully that can sell at a farmer's market, or maybe you got a retail product that you think could go have a go at Whole Foods. And so we provide that opportunity for you, which you would otherwise not have, because such a facility really didn't exist at that time. There's probably maybe a few, one or two facilities that did exist prior to us opening. And so but how that came about was really interesting. About 3 months after opening Beta Collective for the very first time, I received a couple of phone calls. Really, at that time, the city of Surrey just started opening up farmers markets down in the city center area. So when they announced that was happening, the inaugural farmers market, I got some phone calls from people saying, "Hey, I saw on your website that you have a kitchen." And I'm like, in my mind, I kept thinking, yeah, it's like a staff room canteen. It's got a microwave and a toaster oven and a fridge. But they asked us if we can rent that kitchen to prepare their food for the farmers markets. I was like, no, dude, you cannot do that. We're not licensed for any of that. And but when I received about 3 phone calls asking the same thing, that's when it kind of dawned on me. I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? And so, long story short, I reached out to I knew nobody at the time in the food industry. I had one friend who was an ex-roommate of mine. So I gave him a call. I'm like, hey, do you know anything about people needing to rent kitchen space for the farmer's market? And that's when I learned the term commissary for the first time. It's like, yeah, they're looking for a commissary. And I had no idea what a commissary was at that time. So finally did some research. And then when I looked into the concept and how it kind of works, I thought, this is no different from Beta Collective. This is no different from, sort of my shared workspace. And so that kind of led to just putting together a super rough business plan, presented it to my partner, to my roommate, who now is my business partner. and that kind of just snowballed into the sort of the beginnings of YVR Prep, and so in a way the rest is history, and we're still going on strong now.
And now you're in a delivery truck. Good for you.
Yeah, that's a different story too. But it's if there's any sort of lesson, I guess if I were to really take a look, take a step back and kind of look, is more kind of being aware of any potential opportunities. Case in point, this is Simply Foods. I'm in a Simply Foods van. It is a catering company, but this catering company was actually one of our first tenants at the commissary.
Okay.
And it was basically it's a daughter and father catering company for about 20 years, and an opportunity came up where they were successful in bidding for a contract to deliver a hot lunch program. But it was bigger than her and her dad to be able to execute on themselves. And they presented us with the opportunity, and 6 months later we became partners, and so now we run a catering company now. So
look at you go. I should do another video with you in a year from now and then see what else you've added to your repertoire.
Of course. I mean, my goal in life really is not to try to change the world, just change my world a little bit, see what I can do kind of in my sort of 5-foot level here. And, if there's a small little difference we can make, that's what I'm setting out to do.
Good for you, Jason. And what I particularly appreciated about, the introduction of YVR Prep is that, originally you were faced with a bit of a problem, or someone else's problem, right? They were looking for this kitchen and they thought they found it and you didn't have it. So instead of just saying no, which, you did the first few times, obviously, but instead of just saying no and stopping there, you actually said, wait a second.
Hang on. Yeah, that's right.
There's some demand here. There's an opportunity, right? There's a need, right? And then you went and figured out ways to make it happen. So congratulations. Yeah. So I'm curious to know if you were in a first, 100 level entrepreneurial inquiry course, like the one that is being taught right now, and someone were to give you a piece of advice, what would you say that advice should be?
Yeah, I was trying to give that some thought. I would just basically look at sort of my journey as the sort of the example of it, as only sort of a source of reference. And really, for myself, is I never went at any of this alone. I may have had the idea, the idea may have sort of resonated or sparked out of my sort of thought process. But to actually move ahead and actually say, hey, should I validate this? And is this proof of concept even going to work? Really is to align myself with people that perhaps has a strength or a skill set that I didn't have, or some experience that, hey, if I were to bounce this idea off you, could I sell you on it? Mm-hmm. And if you're sold on it, then maybe there's a chance that there is a demand out there. It's not just something that's just kind of swirling in my head and thinking that, hey, this is going to be the best thing since sliced bread. So any of my various ventures that I've pursued over the last decade or so, it's just been working with a partner. If I were to say what type of partners I would look for, certainly I myself do not have next to zero in financial acumen. So I make sure so in terms of that, having someone with financial literacy has been a huge boon to my ability to have a business, to run a business somewhat successfully. But that's just one aspect. So if you're great at it, that's great. I would then say look for someone that might have marketing or sales or business development acumen, or someone sort of in the tech space. So someone that has connections, or they themselves are perhaps developers, or have web development experience or anything like that. Because those are some huge sort of competitive advantages that if you're going to be in a space that could be saturated or have other sort of established companies, you're going to need something that's going to help you kind of pull through, because it's going to help, from a financial standpoint, maybe it'll give you a bit of a runway because, hey, I don't have to fork out $10,000-$20,000 to build that site. I could do it myself, or I don't have to hire an accountant. I pay my accountant a lot of money right now, but but to have someone that can look at all my P&Ls and balance sheets and cash flow statements and really kind of truly understand what is our cost per unit for certain things that we sell, especially in the catering company. So those are the sort of things that I would say yeah, I mean, stories you hear about somebody, being a true solopreneur, I don't know if I really believe that. Or, I mean, I shouldn't say that. People, obviously, there are, all kinds of people being able to start business on their own. But I would say if entrepreneurism isn't really in your blood right at this moment, and you're not, entrepreneurial to the core, then yes, having the ability to work with someone that can kind of, help to build your idea and turn it whole, I think it would be tremendous.
Excellent advice, my friend. Thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate your time. You got a fascinating story. I know when I first reached out to you, you said, I'm pretty boring, but trust me, you've got a very fascinating story. And I know you said you're not looking to change the world, but absolutely, you are certainly changing your community and those around them. So good on you, my friend.